Yeah, whatever. Good enough. I don't even know what it did. It took one of those screen captures. It is what it is. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm also not going to be cooking anything on this camera over the next few days because I'm having enough trouble getting it to cooperate with me as it is. So I'm not going to put it through any extra motions here. I figure I will post those up as, for right now, I might just post them as posts to Twitter or Tumblr or something like that. The recipes for a few of those food items. But if they go up, they go up. If they don't, they don't. We're starting a new month here, and I'm going to just get into the new month. The first review of a book is going up Monday. And then a movie by the end of the first week. Board game, start of the second week. Product, end of the second week. Taste test, third week start. Art, third week end. Video game, fourth week start. And then fourth week end, I will be discussing the exercise routine that I'm doing now, which consists of mainly biking with some cardio alternating days. So endurance, cardio alternating. And we'll see where I am in 4 weeks of doing that. We're coming up on the end of the second week. So we'll see how that looks. And then, yeah, so we did that. That's all the daytime posts, I guess is what I'll call them. I do have to finish up the edit on the first exercise routine video series I did. But once I've done that, the fourth is the start of the next writing week. And then I believe it's the 11th is the start of the next video series. And I will put my video series that was postponed when I was at VidCon to then. So I'll be working on those in the meantime. And then, so writing, videos, board game design for the third week, and then a product design for the fourth week. And when I went to VidCon, I talked with some people at Teespring, so I may see if I can design some t-shirts or shirt designs. And I don't know, I know I don't have enough of an audience at this point, so feel free to recommend me to some of your friends or whatever. But I guess I'll have merch before I have an audience. It'll be what it'll be. I'm going to have fun doing it anyway. I have eaten a lot of garbage today. I finally got my finances organized enough right now that I'm doing okay for right now. I was able to go out and actually put gas in the car, get some food to eat. So I did sort of eat a bunch of junk. Although I'm rather impressed with myself. By the end of the day, I shouldn't have much more than 2,300 calories total consumption for the day. I started with 2 eggs, a hot dog, and an applesauce. Right? Yeah. Was there anything else? Oh, and some popcorn. There you go. And then I went out to do some errands, topped up my gas, and I got sushi. And then I was underwhelmed by it because it's like they didn't have half of their sushi out. Like the one, like I would usually go for a salmon or a tuna or a shrimp with a chili. They didn't have any of that. They had lobster roll. So I got that, and I was like a lobster salad is not the right content for sushi like that. That is no. It's not something I would do again. But it was also like I had the option of doing some yam thing and something else that I didn't particularly care for, and an avocado one. I'm like, I don't want to get vegetarian sushi. So I looked at them, and honestly, the lobster one was the cheapest one because it was like the special of the day. So I got that. So I had that. I got a bag of chips that I was going to split up over the course of the day. And then I went and did a few other errands and grabbed a few other things to eat. And another pack of they're like the store brand sushi. So that was a little bit better, but not great. Ate the bag of chips over the next. I didn't eat them all at once. I spread it out over the day. So I did pretty good, I think. But we're at the end of the day. I'm done eating for the day. Still doing my exercises. I got to finish those up at, I think 3 a.m. is the last round of pedaling that I'm going to be doing today. And then I need to read something for the book that I'll review for the first, on the 5th of this month. And I have to see if I can get my car scheduled to get the rear brakes fixed so I can then get the inspection finished. And then all of that should leave me in a position where I've solved most of what I need to get taken care of. Then it's just working on projects. I'm going to see if I can pick up some part-time work at a retail store, get a little extra money on top of what I'm getting right now, and see what I can do. That may eat into my long-term plans, but unless this starts paying for the bills, which it's not going to, I will have to partition out some of my time to make a little bit of money to cover costs. I'm looking forward to doing some more creative stuff. I'm having a bit of fun. I'm still playing around with this universe that I built. It's a pretty substantial construction here. I have resolved some of the missing blocks. I have one more to figure out, but the citadels or fortresses between the sections between the loops, I've figured out what they are now. So we had Avalon before, and that worked. But I got to thinking, like as I was playing with it today, I had a few other ideas, and I was juggling them back and forth. And then I got to thinking, like, Avalon's an island in an ocean. What if one of them's a mountain and one of them's a cave? So it's land in water, opening into earth, land into sky, kind of thing. It's up, down, floating in the middle. Sort of arrangement of positions, and I wanted them to be a little more culturally, ethnically diverse than just to say like well, here's the Irish and here are the Norse and here are the Germanic or Italian tribes. And I was like, that's not, no, we don't want to have it all clustered in one little area. So I did some looking around, and there's a East Asian concept, the Hindu and Buddhist, and it's called Mount Meru, Meru is how it's written in the Romance languages. And it is essentially, it's that sort of myth of the pillar at the center of the earth that the sky revolves around. It's a giant mountain that sort of forms the center of the world. And so that one makes sense to put between the realm of the gods. And here's the thing that's really awesome about this. In my construct, there's this circle on the outside is gods, the forest, wizards, fae, wonderland, spirits, back to gods. Well, if you take the gods, you have to have Mount Meru is between gods and the forest. Well, if you look at the myth of Mount Meru, they have at its base a forest. So the one underneath of it is a forest, and it fits. It fits perfectly, just like Avalon fits perfectly between the wizards and the fae. And so I'm like, all right, now I need a cave. And so I'm like, okay, where am I going to find a mythic cave? And so I just did a bunch of research, and I'm like, none of this is working. This is like the cave to Hades, and like Hades is a realm of hell. It's part of my paradise and hell collective in one of the central worlds. It's not on the outside. That's not what we're looking for. And then I started really doing some looking around, and I stumbled across. So now I have Avalon in Ireland area, Mount Meru in Asia, and then the next thing I stumble across is somebody who was doing a discussion of caves and mythology, and they're talking about the Zuni Native Americans who have a myth that states that humanity came into being in caves beneath the earth, and the sky god came down and sent down his sons or something like that to bring the people up from the caves. And there's more to the myth than that, but I was like, oh, so now we have this caves that are like the original home of humanity, and it has elements of crossing, but it's called the fourth world. And so they have to pass through two other worlds to get to Earth realm. And the thing that's awesome about that is if you start where this fortress, this realm is going to be, and you move to either the spirit realm or the wonderland realm, that's one that's going to from fourth world to third world. And then from there, either of them go directly to the dream realm. And so that would be third world to second world. And then from there, you move to Earth, which is first world, and it lines up perfectly. You could also go from Zuni, fourth world to Wonderland to the Fey realm to Earth. And either of those options work. Then the count of basically from the location where this mythic fourth world cave exists to get to Earth realm is going from a fourth realm to Earth realm. And it fits a few pieces of the rest of the myth of the structure and the founding of the universe that I want to do. And so I'm super jazzed that it worked out. I've got that. I sort of I need to do a little bit more research on the world between gods and spirits, and the world between forest and wizards. The one between gods and spirits I kind of want to do as the realm where in the genie and personifications such as Mother Nature, concepts like that, not even that, like just fate, luck, those kinds of things would exist. They're not necessarily gods, but they're just things that we create a personality for. Like if you enter a region of the country and it's wide open space and you just feel like it has a personality, it's not necessarily a god or a spirit or anything like that, but it has a personality. So that's sort of what I want to reside in that realm. So I have to do a little research. I do remember years ago doing some research about Gina Slocum and the concept of what we call muses these days are actually in a lot of ways what would be considered a genius. Every person has a genius, and it's it's complicated, but in a sense, you're talking about spirits that aren't quite full spirits, not like the spirit of a human being or a spirit of an animal. They're a slightly different, more nebulous concept. And at the same time, they're not quite gods. And that position between those two realms sort of suits them. But I don't know what to call that realm. And I'm wondering if there's a mythical connection that I can dig up somewhere that would cover it. And then the other one I need to solve is between the forest and the wizard's realm. I was going to go with the 9 realms of Norse mythology, but that's actually better suited to mistakenly attributing it to the realm of gods, heaven, hell. If you split heaven and hell to 2 of them, and then you go earth, wizard's realm, fey realm, and then dream, and then the realm of spirits, you'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then the hidden extra realm of the Jinn would give you the 9 realms of Norse mythology. So looking within the structure of the world that we built, it works best for them to figure out the 9 realms within the structure of the multiverse, rather than ascribing the world tree and 9 realms to an individual realm. So that's what I originally had. I also had the idea of it being Shangri-La. I may revisit that, but I don't think so. That's a place, not a realm. So I got to figure out what makes sense for a realm to fit in the middle there. But other than that, I am having a blast playing with this. And I was talking with some people about what to name it. And like, it really feels like the 13 realms is the right way to do it. And that's a tricky little bit, because that's what we can call it. But nobody in the universe can call it that, because nobody knows there are 13. Nobody knows there are more than 7 to 9. So I got to figure out what they refer to it in universe, and we can call it the 13 realms. And then I've been playing around with the different punk settings. Having some fun with that, actually. Pretty fun time playing with that, too. I did a little research and came out with my sort of master list on the punks. So we have the stone punk, and then we have, which is anything from Flintstone concept of that kind of thing to caveman technology, sort of like the Ewoks in Star Wars, or something like that. And going from that to the end of that era being building stone temples with stone booby traps. And from there, you move into a lot of people refer to it as sandal punk. I'm less inclined to do that. I feel like I kind of want to call it metal punk because it really consolidates the copper, bronze, and iron ages, even all the way up into the early steel age. And by steel age, I mean when they use steel in weapons rather than building steel structures. But so going from stone to metal, the first two would be the material ages. And the next one in that list would be the knights. And then so I guess that would probably be the steel age. Steel punk. And then that leads into the Renaissance. So I call it Ren punk. And that one is like Leonardo da Vinci, chemistry, cadaver research, early medicine, that kind of stuff. And then after that, I have what I call sail punk. And that's when we get into the realm of the Pirates of the Caribbean kind of stuff. And then after that comes clock punk, where some of my absolute favorite historical clockwork stuff comes from. There's a family, father and son, who had a business constructing essentially clockwork furniture, where you put a key in and you turn the key and mechanisms move inside so that doors open, things slide out, spring out. It's like Transformers furniture. And I love some of that stuff. And so for me, that's clock punk. And then that comes to an end around 1820s, I think, 1830s, which is right around the time for the early Industrial Revolution, which would be steampunk. And steampunk is followed by diesel punk. So you'll notice we went from materials, from stone to copper, bronze, and iron, and then steel. And then we went from materials to mechanics. And then we went from mechanics to fuel or energy or power systems. So you're doing steam, and then you're doing diesel, so petroleum. And then the next one in the list is atom punk, which is nuclear power. And arguably in there, we can start throwing in some of the sustainable powers. So solar, wind, geothermal, that kind of stuff. But then we get through to the end of Atom Punk. And we end up in the information age or the electronics age. So, like, the first one on that is sort of where it kind of gets tricky, is transistor punk, which I've seen people refer to as it's basically what I was thinking of as hippie punk. It starts in the mid 60s and it runs to about the late 70s, early 80s time frame. And then what we have in there is the little glitch of punk. It's just punk. That's where punk originates. It's late 70s, early 80s. By 85, punk goes away. And then from there, we have a little bit of a gap that I was puzzling over for a bit. And where I go next, usually from there, what I originally went from there was to the iMac through to the iPhone, which is 98 through to kind of current time frame. And that one is, I call it the iPunk. It's the ubiquitous Apple styling that we got used to, the minimalistic magic brick technology. And then after that is cyberpunk, and then biopunk. But there's that little gap between the end of punk in 84, 85 and the first iMac, which is 98. And that's just enough time to squeeze in its own little time frame. So it took me a little while to figure out that happens to be the time frame when the first game system came out. The Nintendo Entertainment System. Well, not the first. Atari predates it a little bit, but for the all intents and purposes, that game console, it was such a popular thing when the game console of Nintendo Entertainment System hit the United States. It came out like 2 years earlier in Japan, but when the NES came out, it was so popular for such a while that it became known as the era of Nintendo. And I'm like, that sounds about right. And within 3 or 4 years of that, they came out with the first Game Boy, so portable gaming system. And yeah, that would hold on to the time frame a little bit. And it has its own music taste because punk ended in about 84. Punk music just kind of died at that point. It finally just gave its last real big gasp. There are people who still listen to it today, but it's not an active movement in the music industry anymore. There's some revival of some of it too, but punk really just it was already waning before that, and that's when it sort of just dropped off of most people's radar. And what came after that was grunge. That's the one that is sort of the identity of that time. And then late 90s, I feel like that's hip hop and rap. And then I feel like as we've approached I don't know if I can class it that way or not. I don't know what's come after the hip hop rap trend. I feel like I want to say like dub and new electronic, but I'm not as up on what the current trends in music are. But yeah, so I think I've fleshed out the structure of what the universe is with years and ideas for each, and then a sort of well-established structure to that timeline. And many of them, I would say about 4 or 5 of them on that list, are things I've never seen a story of that genre. And so I kind of want to write a story in some of those genres. So I may be doing that in this coming week when I do some writing. But we shall see. I'm at 30 minutes. I'm going to call it for tonight. And I'm going to thank you for watching. And I will catch you later. Take care of yourself. And have a good night. Doot, doot, doot.